Shabbat Shalom. I would like to begin my remarks this weekend by dedicating this Dvar Torah to the memory of my beloved mother-in-law, Edie Rosen. My mother-in-law unfortunately passed away this past week. Both the English date was this past week, 5 years, and this Sunday it will be 5 years to the Hebrew date, since we lost her way too early. I have many memories of my mother-in-law, but perhaps the two things that stood out most for me for my mother-in-law really were concretized in the first Thanksgiving that I spent at Alyssa's house. Now, it's important that I tell you that the first Thanksgiving that I spent at Alyssa's house was also the time that I asked Alyssa's father if I could marry her. Alyssa's father, being a little bit of a jokester, he made me pay for asking for his daughter's hand in marriage, but of course the story turns out well. But I was very nervous, and I'm not a naturally nervous person by any stretch of the imagination. It was a day on which I was very nervous. And we sat down, and my mother-in-law, as she always did, had tons of people in the house, and she couldn't have been happier to welcome and make sure that each of these people felt so good about being in her house. And then she took her first plate of food on Thanksgiving. When I tell you that my mother-in-law could put away a plate of food, you can't possibly imagine. And she was this slender woman, so we have no clue really where it went. But the thing that never left me from that day was the way my mother-in-law was a hostess. She loved doing it. It was a part of her. But she loved doing it not so that she could get the inevitable accolades that she would get afterwards. She loved doing it because she loved the house that it created. She loved, for her daughters, for her family, she loved creating an open house where everybody was welcome. And I would say in turn, because of that, a very godly house. We read that God was the first one to exhibit the trait of welcoming the visitors when he allowed humanity to be created. In essence, he welcomed us into the divine world. How beautiful it is when we have Shabbat together, when we have strangers and friends at our dinner table. Hachnasat orchim, as we studied last month, is a value that just never leaves us. It's a part of who we are as Jews. It's a part of who we are as community. For many of us, it's a part of who we are as people. So as we celebrate this Shabbat and as we remember my beloved mother-in-law, I'm strengthened by the lesson and the legacy of Hachnasat orchim, welcoming in guests, and the role it plays in our tradition. Shabbat Shalom.